Thanks for listening to the Granite List Live. Today's episode is brought to you by Connect Healthcare Collaboration, where benefits marketing meets clinical advocacy to drive effective employee engagement. This is the Granite List Live, where we explore all things human capital and employee benefits related. I'm your host, Sally Pace. And today, I'm joined by Laura Carabello, the principal at CPR Strategic Communications. And Laura, we have run in the same circle for so long. I have admired your work for quite a while. But for the 2 or 3 people that may be listening to this that aren't familiar with what you do you mind giving a little bit of history of how you started CPR?
Sure. So CPR goes back about 35 years when I met my husband through Oxford Health Plans. I had a public relations firm and we started to work together. He was at Oxford and we took them to the moon, as everybody knows. And we started our own firm, CPR, and Strategic Marketing Communications. And it has been a great ride ever since. We got in on the ground floor of healthcare communications and marketing. We went from a domestic small firm to an international recognized. We call ourselves a firm, not an agency. We're not a typical ad agency. We're really a marketing communications firm. We specialize in healthcare. 99% of our business is in healthcare, and much of it is in the benefits industry. And I work very closely with employers, brokers, administrators, plan sponsors, you name it, everybody who's in the healthcare benefits industry. I also work very closely with SIA. Some people may recognize my name from SIA because I write the monthly article for the last, it's got to be 3 years now. I write a monthly article on some aspect of the self-insurance industry. So I get to talk to everybody, and I'm going to be at the SIA meeting coming up in October. We're going to have a special table just for the magazine, and so I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Absolutely. I will be there as well, and I can't wait to see you. But for today's purposes, can you tell a little bit about the work that you do working with these different organizations?
Sure. So I said we work with every aspect of healthcare, from providers, payers, direct to consumer, but it's all revolving around healthcare. So we create content. We are big content creators in terms of byline articles, blogs, press releases, newsletters, digital communications, everything around healthcare that an emerging healthcare company would need. I worked with a lot of emerging companies that went on to become big names, like I was a founder at Teladoc, Recuro. I've been involved in a lot of startups, and it's been a very exciting run to take these companies. And I always say to my clients, I want to make you rich and famous. So I get their company on the map. I establish a voice for them in the marketplace. And that is in not only the U.S. marketplace, but the global marketplace. We publish an international newsletter. It's probably the leading one in the industry, if not the only one, called medicaltraveltoday.com. And so I work with a lot of hospitals and providers and healthcare, reinsurers, captives, all over the world. And so it's taken me to all parts of the world. I also enjoy working in the biotech industry, work a lot in biotech, working with rare diseases. And it's been it's a very exciting place to be.
And your readership is really, really impressive as well.
Well, thank you. I work with a great staff of writers, my pitching team, that we pitch articles and opportunities for all of our clients. But my husband and I really lead the organization together. And I like to talk to CEOs. I usually report to CEOs and help them to carve their way out in the healthcare space. Has become very crowded since I started. And it has become not only crowded, but competitive. And now we have, instead of one major telehealth company, we probably have 400 telehealth companies. So everybody's fighting for the same dollar, which is shrinking. So it's really an art to getting your voice heard above the crowd. And that's what we do.
Absolutely. Well, through the span of your career, can you talk through any trends that you've seen or any trends that you think will be emerging over the next couple of years?
The next few years are going to be very volatile. because of the changes in the administration, just the nuances of healthcare, how it gets paid for, how it's delivered, the need for data. I see AI rising. I see all of that happening. And in healthcare, you have to, of course, proceed with caution. It can't be just jump into the first shiny thing that comes along. So I always caution my clients to make sure that they're on solid ground, whoever they're appealing to, whether it's a payer, whether it's a provider, whether it's an intermediary. You have to really narrow down your messaging to make sure that it fits. And what is happening now is that with all of the competitive forces going on and private equity coming into the play, there's going to be more mergers and acquisitions. So the field is going to get bigger, but it's going to be more concentrated on fewer resources and fewer providers of services. So that's where we really need to see is getting the content out, but making sure that the messaging is really hitting the market, hitting the audience that you want to reach, not just general messaging. So I think that's a big change.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned private equity, and yes, we're certainly seeing it across the landscape as well, more investments being made. Often when private equity groups come in, they are looking at the bottom line, looking to cut as many expenses as possible. And oftentimes marketing is an unfortunate byproduct of that. What advice are you giving groups on the importance of communication?
Well, I deal with a lot of private equity organizations that make investments. There are certain things that they can't cut. There may be some extraneous things, but if they don't have a platform, they know that that company will not succeed and their investment won't pay off. So they really need to keep their portfolio companies in the spotlight. And how do you do that? Being in the press, being in the media, having content that is compelling, being a thought leader. That's all the things that we do. We don't do the frill stuff. There may be some advertising that gets cut, which I'm not always in favor of because in healthcare, I don't always see advertising paying off. But I think getting your thought leadership out there and your content out there is more important than ever.
And let's focus on the publishing aspect for a while. You've made an incredible name for yourself in the publishing arena. Certainly, my first experience with that was getting my physical copy of The Self-Insurer, which I love. But are there trends you're seeing change in the publishing world? What has changed, especially over the past 10 years?
When I say I'm in the publishing world, I publish a newsletter which grew from my little Rolodex. That's how long ago I started this. I had a Rolodex. I don't even have a Rolodex anymore. I have a virtual Rolodex, with 250 names. And it just grew like Topsy. I mean, we're up to almost 100,000 subscribers now on our newsletter, which is just incredible. It took a lot of hard work. I don't take advertising into the newsletter, so it just goes by word of mouth and being relevant, getting people who are relevant to do these kinds of interviews. And then publishing could be writing articles for the trade press. And we do a lot of that for our clients. We also do it for CPR. I publish with Saya every month. More of a joyful experience than anything else because it really keeps me in touch. A lot of clients come to me because of that, and I really enjoy it. I have a degree in journalism from Syracuse. I've been a newspaper reporter and a magazine editor my whole career. So for me, publishing was a natural.
And there's been a lot of talk across the industry about AI. What are the trends you're seeing around AI in our industry?
AI is definitely the future. I mean, there's no doubt about it. What I'm hearing, though, from the market, from the editors that I deal with, is that tell your clients not to do an AI story. I get specific requests from big publications. They're not looking for an AI printout. They have all kinds of guidelines now, and they can tell when it's AI produced. So they really don't want that. So I've been very careful about using AI. I use it internally, obviously, for my business, but I'm very careful when we turn out content to a trade magazine or to the New York Times or whoever we're dealing with, that it's not strictly AI produced. You've got to be very, very cautious about it. Otherwise, if you get taken off their resource list, you'll never get back on.
Right, right. And what are some of the topics that do seem to resonate in the market right now?
Well, it depends on the audience. For example, we work with a fertility company. They're interested in dealing with brokers and employers. So they come up with a very, I think, innovative way of going after the market, and they're competing with some big companies. So they really have to be very progressive and very innovative to offer services that are going to meet the needs not only of the consumer, but also of the employer. So it has to be cost containment. On the other side, I deal in biotech and rare disease with Acela Health. So that's a whole different marketplace. That's the pharmaceutical manufacturers, and that's the payers as well. We deal with gene and cell therapies and all their specialty pharmaceuticals. So it's a whole different media audience. When you look at the media audience, you have to know what they're looking for, the storylines that they're looking for. It's not just grinding out press releases. It's got to hit the mark. It's got to hit what they're interested in. And today, of course, what everybody's interested in is saving money.
So let's kind of double down on that pharmaceutical industry. Stories about pharmacy, not just PBMs, but the drugs themselves are everywhere these days. And like you said earlier, it is a crowded market and there is a lot of noise. So specific to the pharmaceutical and also biotech, 15 years ago, employers weren't looking at carving out specialty drug, or, plans weren't really looking at being front runners in biotech. What advice do you have for some of those startups, specifically in these areas?
Well, I think, again, it's having an innovative approach to the market that puts the patient at the center of care. When you put the patient at the center of care, I don't care what you're selling. You could be selling hernia surgery. You could be selling pharmaceuticals, specialty pharmacy drugs, gene and cell therapies. It doesn't matter what you're selling. When the patient is at the center of care and you want that outcome to be as good as it can possibly be for that patient, then your message is resonating in the market. So then all of the other services that you're offering from any vantage point then relate back to what happens to the patient. How do you engage that patient? How do you get them involved in self-care? How do you help them with the cost of care? So everything revolves around that centrifuge, the patient.
Perfect. So what have we not covered that you would like to cover?
I think it's important to always remember that healthcare is about people. It's something, whether you're dealing in Europe, in South America, wherever I'm hitting the mark, it's always about the people. How do the people benefit from the service that you're providing? How does the employer and the payer pay for those services? And what is the outcome? What is the outcome that we're looking for? Better quality of life for everybody. And that goes to the one who's paying for the care and the one who's receiving the care.
Well, thank you for the role that you and your team play in making sure that there is clear, concise communication around all of it.
Thank you.
Well, Laura, you know how much our team loves working with yours.
And me too.
Thank you. We are grateful that you are a part of the Granite List community. We're grateful for the work that you do across our industry. And thank you to our audience for tuning in to another episode of the Granite List Live.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Granite List Live. Access our entire library by visiting your favorite podcast venue or subscribe on our site, thegranitelist.live.